The last Kithran ship drifted through the cold darkness of space like a dying star. Commander Velthor pressed his crystalline hand against the observation window and watched as another world turned gray behind them. The silence had found the Kef system. His people called it the silence because that was what it brought: complete and absolute quiet. No more singing crystals, no more harmonic cities that rang like bells in the wind, no more life, just gray dust that had once been mountains, oceans, and billions of living beings. Velthar's body flickered with pale blue light, the color of deep sadness in his species. Through the ship's corridors, he could hear the low, mournful songs of his people. They sang for the dead worlds. They sang for the children who would never see their crystal gardens bloom again. They sang because it was all they had left. "Commander," a voice chimed behind him. Mordain, his oldest friend and advisor, stepped into the observation chamber. His crystal body showed cracks from stress and exhaustion. "The engineering team's report: our power cores are nearly empty. We have maybe one more jump before the fleet goes dark. 1 million Kitharans spread across 200 ships. That was all that remained of a civilization that had once built cities in the hearts of stars and composed symphonies that could be heard across solar systems. They had been running for 43 cycles now, ever since the silence first appeared in their core worlds." Velthor turned away from the window. The weight of leadership felt heavier than the gravity of his lost homeworld. "What about our requests for sanctuary?" Mordain's light dimmed further. "The Zeloti Council rejected us this morning. They said housing our people would attract the silence to their worlds. That makes 17 refusals, Commander. 17 species had turned them away. Some had been polite about it, offering small amounts of supplies before sending them on their way. Others had been cruel, calling them plague bearers and cursing them for bringing death across the galaxy. A few had simply ignored their desperate messages completely. The Kitharans had tried everything. They had offered their advanced crystal technology, their knowledge of harmonic engineering, even their most sacred songs. Nothing worked. Every species in the galaxy knew the same terrible truth. Wherever the Kitharans went, the silence followed. No one wanted to risk their own worlds for a dying race. Velthar walked to the command center where holographic displays showed the scattered positions of his fleet. Red warning lights blinked on most of the ships. Failing life support, cracked hulls, dying power systems. They were like flowers wilting in a desert, and he had no water to give them. "Sir," came another voice. Navigation Officer Silahan looked up from her console with something that might have been hope in her crystal features. "There is one more option we have not tried." Velthor felt a bitter note ring through his chest. "Oh, which species have we forgotten to beg? The humans, sir?" The command center went completely quiet. Even the ship's harmonic engine seemed to pause. Humans were the newest species in the galactic community. They had only been traveling between stars for a few hundred years, which was barely a heartbeat to civilizations like the Kitharans, who measured time in millennia. More importantly, humans were known to be violent. The few reports that reached the Galactic Council spoke of a species that still fought wars on their own planet. They had weapons that could crack moons, and the disturbing habit of solving problems by throwing massive amounts of force at them. Most civilized species considered them barely above barbarians. Silahan Velthor said carefully, "The humans have no reason to help us. They barely know we exist. And even if they wanted to help, what could such a young species do against the silence that the great powers of the galaxy cannot?" But even as he spoke, Velthor found himself thinking. They had already been rejected by every advanced civilization in known space. The Altarians with their 1,000-year-old wisdom, the mighty Zentoran Empire with fleets that could darken stars, the philosophical Dendrons who claimed to value all life above their own comfort. All of them had said no. "Perhaps," Mordain said slowly, "that is exactly why we should try them. The great powers have much to lose. These humans, what do they know of the silence? What do they fear from it? Velthor looked at the tactical display, showing the approaching gray wall of death that had followed them across half the galaxy. His people were exhausted, their ships were dying, and they had nowhere left to run. In a few days, maybe weeks, the silence would catch them. Then the last songs of the Kitharan race would fade into nothing. He made a decision that would change everything. Silahan, compose a transmission to the human systems. Standard refugee protocols. Tell them who we are, what hunts us, and ask for sanctuary. As his communications officer began preparing the message, Velthar wondered if they were making their final mistake. But sometimes, when you are falling into darkness, you reach for any light you can find, no matter how small or distant it might seem. The message went out into the void, carrying the last hope of a dying race toward a species that most of the galaxy considered too young and too primitive to matter. Admiral Kim Hagen was drinking his morning coffee when the message arrived. The Korean text scrolled across his personal screen in the quiet of his ready room aboard the UES Harmony. He read it once, then twice, then called for his translator. "Sir," Lieutenant Lee Daehee said as she entered, "the message is from an alien species called the Kitharans. They say they are refugees. Something called the Silence is chasing them across the galaxy." Kim set down his coffee cup and looked at the alien symbols that appeared alongside the Korean translation. The computer had done its best to convert their harmonic language into words, but even through the mechanical translation, he could feel the desperation. "How many of them are there?" 1 million survivors spread across 200 ships, sir. They say their homeworld was destroyed. They have been running for over 40 years. Kim stood and walked to his window, looking out at the stars. The human fleet was on patrol near the outer colonies, far from Earth, but close enough to respond to emergencies. He had been an admiral for 15 years, but he had never received a message like this. "Sir," Lee continued, "there is more. They say they have asked 17 other species for help. All of them said no. Why did they refuse?" Lee checked her tablet. "The aliens mention that this silence follows them. Other species are afraid it will spread to their worlds if they help." Kim turned back to face her. In the translated message, he could see coordinates, technical specifications of their failing ships, and a simple request that made his chest tight. They were not demanding anything. They were not offering great rewards. They were just asking for a place where their children could be safe. "Get me Dr. Park Min-ho from the Science Division," Kim said, "and Commander Choi So-young from the Refugee Assistance Program. Also, send a priority message to Earth Command." While he waited, Kim read the message again. The Kitharans had included images of their ships. The vessels were beautiful, made of what looked like living crystal that glowed with soft light. But he could see the damage. Cracks ran through their hulls like scars. Many of the ships looked ready to fall apart. Dr. Park arrived first, his hair messy from sleep. "Admiral, what is the emergency?" Kim showed him the message. Park read it carefully, his eyes growing wider with each line. "Sir, this is incredible. A completely unknown alien species, and they are asking us for help. The scientific opportunities alone." "Doctor," Kim interrupted gently, "they are not research subjects. They are people who need help." Commander Choi arrived next, still putting on her uniform jacket. She was the fleet's expert on refugee situations, having helped coordinate aid during the Mars colony disaster 5 years earlier. She read the message and immediately began making notes. "Admiral, if their numbers are correct, this is the largest refugee crisis in human history. We would need medical supplies, food generators, temporary housing modules, translation equipment, ... Can we do it?" Kim asked. Choi looked at him with surprise. "Sir, are you asking if we have the capability, or if we have permission?" Before Kim could answer, his communication system chimed. Earth Command was responding to his priority message. Admiral Song from Fleet Headquarters appeared on the holographic display, her face serious but calm. "Kim, I got your message about the alien refugees. What is your assessment?" "Ma'am, they are desperate and running out of time. Their ships are failing, and something called the Silence is hunting them. No other species will help them." Song was quiet for a moment. "How long do we have to decide?" "Based on their power. Readings, maybe days before their fleet goes dark. The pursuing threat could arrive any time after that." Kim watched Song's face as she considered the situation. This was bigger than a simple rescue mission. This was humanity's first real chance to help another species, to show what they stood for in the galaxy. "Admiral Kim," Song said finally, "I am authorizing full humanitarian deployment. Take whatever ships and supplies you need. Show them what humanity is capable of." The communication ended, and Kim turned to his officers. "You heard the Admiral. Dr. Park, gather every xenobiologist, linguist, and medical expert we have. Commander Choi, start organizing refugee processing centers. Lieutenant Lee, send our response to the Kithrins." "What should I tell them, sir?" Lee asked. Kim thought for a moment. Every other species had given them long explanations about why they could not help. Complex political reasons, economic concerns, security issues. But sometimes the most important messages were the simplest ones. Tell them, "Send us your coordinates. We are coming." Within 6 hours, the largest humanitarian fleet in human history was jumping toward deep space. Hospital ships, engineering vessels, supply transports, and thousands of volunteers from across human territory. They brought medical equipment, food, repair materials, and something the Kithrins had not seen in 40 years of running: hope. When Commander Velthor received the human response, he read it 3 times before he believed it. No conditions, no demands for payment, no long political discussions. Just a simple promise that meant everything. As the Kithrin fleet limped toward the meeting coordinates, their crystal bodies began to glow with colors that had been forgotten during their long exile. For the first time in decades, they began to sing songs of hope instead of sorrow. Behind them, the Silence continued its relentless pursuit. But ahead of them, a young species was preparing to do something that had never been tried before: stand between death and a million innocent lives, simply because it was the right thing to do. Dr. Park Minho had not slept for 3 days. His eyes burned as he stared at the sample of gray dust under his microscope. The Silence looked like nothing special, just tiny machines smaller than bacteria. But he knew these microscopic killers had destroyed entire solar systems. "Doctor," his assistant called from across the laboratory, "the computer has finished analyzing the Kithrin biology samples." Park rubbed his tired eyes and walked to the main screen. What he saw made him sit down hard in his chair. The Kithrin were made of living crystal that vibrated at specific frequencies. The Silence nanomachines were designed to match those exact vibrations and break them apart from the inside. "It's like a key made for their lock," he whispered. "No wonder they cannot fight it." His communication device buzzed. Admiral Kim's voice filled the lab. "Doctor, what have you found?" "Sir, the Silence was built by someone a long time ago. It was designed to kill everything, but it works especially well against crystal-based life forms. The Kithrins never had a chance." "What about us? Could it affect humans?" Park looked at his biological scans of human volunteers. "That's the interesting part, sir. Human biology is chaotic. Our brains work differently than most species. We might actually be able to resist the conversion process." Through the lab's windows, Park could see the Kithrin refugee ships docked with the human fleet. The crystal aliens had been amazed by humanity's response. Instead of a few diplomatic vessels, they had been met by hundreds of ships filled with doctors, engineers, and volunteers. Commander Velter had wept crystal tears when he first stepped aboard a human medical ship. Through harmonic translators, He had asked Admiral Kim the same question over and over. Why are you doing this for strangers? Kim's answer was always the same, because you needed help. Now, 3 days later, the human fleet was working frantically to repair Kitharan ships while their scientists tried to understand the threat chasing them. But time was running out. Captain Yang Ji-hoon's voice crackled through the communication system. Admiral, long-range sensors are picking up the silence at the system edge. Estimated arrival at Haven Station in 36 hours. Park felt his stomach drop. Haven Station was the mobile command center the humans had built to coordinate the refugee operation. It held 50,000 Kitharans who were too sick or injured to stay on their ships if the silence reached them. Admiral Kim's response was immediate and shocking. All ships, prepare for defensive positions around Haven Station. We make our stand here. Dr. Park left his lab and ran to the command center. He found Admiral Kim studying tactical displays with Commander Velter. The Kitharan leader's crystal body was flickering with distress colors. Admiral Kim, Velter sang through his translator, you cannot sacrifice your people for us. We are already dead. Save your ships and go home. Kim looked at the alien commander with steady eyes. Commander, with respect, nobody dies today, if I can help it. We did not come here to watch you die. We came here to help you live. The next 36 hours were unlike anything in human history. Engineering teams worked around the clock to build defensive platforms. While Kitharan technicians shared their advanced shield technology, the aliens taught humans how to use harmonic frequencies to strengthen their defenses. Dr. Park led a team of volunteers in the most dangerous experiment ever attempted. We need to expose humans to controlled amounts of the silence, he explained to his team. If my theory is right, our chaotic biology might develop immunity. Dr. Beijina, a brave, young researcher, was the first to volunteer. If it might save both our species, then we have to try. The experiments were terrifying. The volunteers lay in medical beds while tiny amounts of silence nanomachines were introduced to their systems. Most of the subjects became violently ill. 2 nearly died. But something incredible happened. Admiral Park called Kim with excitement in his voice. It's working. Human immune systems are learning to fight the silence. We can create immunity, seeds-modified nanomachines that teach biological systems how to resist the conversion. On the bridge of Haven Station, Admiral Kim watched as the gray wall of death approached their position. The silence moved like a slow tide, consuming asteroids and space dust as it came. Behind him, Kitharan refugees sang their battle songs, haunting melodies that helped coordinate their shield frequencies with human defense systems. All ships, this is Admiral Kim. In a few hours, we will face something that has never been stopped before. But we are not just fighting for the Kitharans anymore. We are fighting for the principle that no species should die alone in the darkness, while others have the power to help. Commander Veltar placed a crystal hand on Kim's shoulder. Admiral, in 40 years of running, no one has ever stood with us. Your species has given us something we had forgotten: hope. Kim looked at the approaching wall of gray death, and then at the combined human Kitharan fleet, arranged in defensive positions around Haven Station. Ships from 2 completely different species, working together against impossible odds. Dr. Park, he called on the communication system. How long? Before the immunity seeds are ready. 6 hours, sir. But we need to deliver them directly to the Silence's central processing unit. Kim nodded grimly. Someone would have to fly directly into the heart of the mechanical plague and release the immunity seeds by hand. It would be a suicide mission. All fighter squadrons, prepare for final briefing, Kim announced. We are going to do something that has never been tried before. Captain Oh Suben checked her fighter's weapon systems one last time. Around her, 48 human pilots sat in their cockpits, waiting for the order to launch. Through her canopy, she could see the wall of gray death approaching Haven Station, like a slow tsunami in space. Phoenix Squadron, Admiral Kim's voice came through her headset. You will escort Commander Na Wujin to the Silence's central node. His ship carries the immunity seeds that might stop this thing forever. Subin looked at Na Wujin's modified fighter. The young pilot had volunteered for what everyone knew was a one-way mission. His ship was packed with Dr. Park's nanomachines instead of weapons. If he could get close enough to the Silence's brain and release them, the immunity seeds might spread through the entire network. All fighters, this is Phoenix Leader, Subin announced. Remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves today. We are fighting so that no species ever has to run from this thing again. The Silence hit their outer defenses at exactly 14:30 ship time. The gray wave crashed against the first line of defensive platforms like water against rocks. But this water dissolved everything it touched. Within minutes, 3 platforms were gone, converted into more gray dust that joined the advancing tide. Second wave launching, came the call from Haven Station. Captain Lim De-jin led her squadron of heavy fighters toward the Silence's forward edge. Behind them, Kithran ships sang their battle songs, haunting melodies that helped coordinate shield frequencies and gave courage to human pilots who had never faced anything like this before. The first contact was terrifying. Human weapons fired streams of energy into the gray mass, creating temporary gaps that closed within seconds. The Silence learned from each attack, adapting its defenses faster than the humans could adjust their tactics. Phoenix Leader, this is Admiral Kim. The Silence is jamming our long-range sensors. We cannot find the central node. Subin's heart sank. Without knowing where the brain of this thing was located, Na Wujin's mission was impossible. She was about to respond when a new voice joined their communication channel. Human fighters, this is Commander Veltor, aboard the Resonance. Our harmonic sensors can penetrate the Silence's jamming. We will guide you. The Catharan command ship moved closer to the battle, its crystal hull glowing with determination. Through the chaos of the fight, Velthor's voice sang out coordinates in a mixture of harmonic tones and human words. Central node located, bearing 127 Mark 43. Distance 4,000 kilometers into the gray mass. Subin felt her stomach drop. 4,000 kilometers into the heart of the Silence meant flying through an ocean of death for almost 10 minutes. Even at maximum speed, the gray nanomachines would have plenty of time to destroy them. Phoenix Squadron, form up on me, she ordered. We are going in. The dive into the Silence was like flying into a gray nightmare. The nanomachines swarmed around their ships like angry insects, trying to find weak spots in their shields. Subin watched her instruments as her fighter's hull temperature rose dangerously high. Phoenix 3 is down, came a voice over the radio. Then, Phoenix 7, hull breach, in Section 2. One by one, fighters began to fall behind, their pilots ejecting into space pods that might survive long enough for rescue. But some made it through. Subin's battered fighter, along with 6 others, broke through the outer layer of the Silence and found themselves in a strange space filled with floating geometric shapes that pulsed with dark energy. There, Na Wujin's voice was calm, despite the chaos around them. The central node. It looks like a black star. Subin saw it, a spherical object, the size of a small moon, covered in patterns that hurt to look at directly. This was the brain that had commanded the destruction of entire civilizations. Phoenix Squadron, give me cover, Na Wujin said. I am going in. Subin and her remaining pilots formed a protective circle around Na Wujin's ship as he accelerated toward the node. The Silence threw everything at them: swarms of nanomachines, energy beams that could slice through ship hulls, gravity weapons that tried to crush their fighters. Immunity seeds armed and ready, Na Wujin reported. Tell my family I was proud to fly with humans and Kitharans. His ship disappeared in a flash of light as it struck the central node. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, something impossible began. The gray tide stopped, advancing. Dr. Park's voice crackled over the communication system from Haven Station. It's working. The immunity seeds are spreading through the silence network. The nanomachines are starting to break down. Subin watched in amazement as the gray mass around her began to change color. Where the immunity seed spread, the silence turned silver, then white, then simply disintegrated into harmless space dust. The retreat happened faster than the advance. Within hours, the mechanical plague that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia was breaking apart. Dead zones appeared throughout the network as infected nanomachines taught others how to destroy themselves. But victory came at a terrible price. 37 human fighters had been lost in the battle. Commander Na Wu-jin and Phoenix Squadron had given their lives to deliver the immunity seeds. Hundreds of volunteers who had helped develop the treatment did not survive the process. On Haven Station, Admiral Kim stood beside Commander Velthor as they watched the last of the silence dissolve into nothing. Around them, both humans and Kithrans wept for the dead while singing songs of joy for the living. Admiral Velthor sang softly, "Your species has done what no one thought possible. You have freed the galaxy from its greatest fear." Kim looked at the stars, now safe for the first time in centuries. "Commander, we did it together. That is what made the difference." 1 year after the Battle of Haven Station, Dr. Park Minho was teaching Kithran children how to sing in Korean. The crystal-bodied youngsters sat in a circle around him on New Seoul Station, their bodies glowing with happy colors as they tried to match the sounds of his language. "Annyeonghaseyo," they chimed in their harmonic voices, the greeting coming out like music through the classroom windows. Park could see the great construction projects that had changed this corner of space forever. Human engineering ships worked alongside Kithran crystal shapers to build refugee cities that sparkled like jewels among the stars. The immunity zones they had created kept expanding, making more and more systems safe from any future mechanical plagues. Dr. Park, his assistant SEO Minjan, called from the doorway, "Admiral Kim needs you in the command center. We have received another distress call." Park excused himself from the children and walked through the station's corridors. Everywhere he looked, he saw humans and Kithrans working together. Human doctors learned harmonic healing from crystal medics. Kithran engineers taught humans how to build with living light. Children from both species played games that mixed human laughter with alien songs. The command center buzzed with activity. Admiral Kim stood at the main display next to Commander Velthor, who now carried the honorary human title of Admiral alongside his Kithran rank. The crystal being's body showed the deep blue-green colors that meant serious concentration. "What is the situation?" Park asked. Lieutenant Lee Dahi looked up from her communication station. "It's from the Andorian Republic, at the Galactic Rim, sir. They are facing something they call the Hunger. It appears to be some kind of energy entity that feeds on entire star systems." Park felt a familiar tightness in his chest. Another species facing extinction. Another impossible threat that the galaxy's older civilizations would probably ignore, hoping it stayed far away from their own worlds. "How long do they have, Admiral?" Kim asked. "Based on their transmission, maybe 3 weeks before the Hunger reaches their core worlds. They have tried to fight it, but their weapons only seem to make it stronger." Commander Velthor's crystal form flickered with memory colors. "Admiral Kim, this sounds like the early reports we received about the silence, before we understood what we were truly facing." Kim nodded grimly. The Human Kitharan Alliance had become the galaxy's unofficial rescue organization over the past year. 7 different species had received their help when facing extinction-level threats. But each crisis was different, requiring new solutions and new sacrifices. "Sir," came another voice from across the room. Captain Oh Subin, one of the heroes of Haven Station, approached with a datapad. She had been promoted to head of rapid response operations after the battle. "The Hunger is unlike anything we have faced before. It does not destroy matter like the silence did. Instead, it converts energy itself into some kind of dark matter that spreads like a cancer. Dr. Park studied the readings from the Andorian systems. This is fascinating and terrifying at the same time. If this entity can convert stellar energy, it could potentially consume entire galaxies. The room fell quiet as everyone understood the implications. This was not just about saving one species. This was about preventing something that could eventually threaten every living thing in the known universe. How quickly can we mobilize? Kim asked Captain Choi Soyoung, now the Alliance's chief of humanitarian operations, consulted her tablet. The main fleet can be ready in 48 hours. We have medical ships, research vessels, and enough supplies for a 3-month operation. The Kithrans have offered their new harmonic resonance ships that can travel faster than our previous technology allowed. What about the immunity zones here? Dr. Park asked. We cannot leave our refugee populations undefended. Commander Velthor sang a reassuring melody. Dr. Park, the immunity seeds have created permanent dead zones that no mechanical plague can cross. Our people are safe. It is time to help others as your species once helped us. Admiral Kim walked to the main display and looked at the star chart showing the Andorian Republic's location at the edge of the galaxy. It would be their most dangerous mission yet, facing an unknown threat in unfamiliar space, far from any support. All department heads, prepare for full deployment, he announced. We leave for the Galactic Rim in 48 hours. As the command staff dispersed to make preparations, Park remained behind with the 2 admirals. You know, a year ago, most species in the galaxy thought humans were too primitive to matter. Now they send distress calls to us when they face extinction. Kim smiled. And a year ago, the Kithrans were considered a doomed race, fleeing through space. Now they are our partners in protecting the galaxy. Commander Velthor's crystal body glowed with warm golden light, the color of deep gratitude and friendship. Dr. Park, your species taught us something our ancient civilization had never learned, that true strength comes not from what you can take, but from what you are willing to give. The next morning, the largest humanitarian fleet in galactic history prepared to depart for the Rim. Human ships filled with volunteers sailed alongside Kithran crystal vessels that sang with harmonious purpose. Together, they carried hope to a species that had nowhere else to turn as the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. Admiral Kim's final transmission went out on all frequencies. Andorian Republic, this is the Human Kithran Alliance. We have received your coordinates. We are coming. The words that had once saved a dying race had become the galaxy's promise that no species would face extinction alone.